Welcome to the Hogwarts BSU Social. Tonight we are talking with contributors to the Black Wizard History Month project.
All month, we've been releasing stories and other content in celebration of Black History Month, Black Wizard History Month, as we like to call it here. And you can find it all at blackgirlscreate.org.
So this is a panel-style discussion, and while Robin and I are leading the conversation, we do want to hear from viewers. So you can send your questions either in the chat or on Twitter using the hashtag BlackWizardHistory.
And before we get started, let's have everyone on the panel introduce themselves with your name, your pronouns, and your Hogwarts house. I'm Robin, she, her. I am she, her, Beyonce. Actually, those are my three pronouns.
Oh.
She, her, Beyonce.
Oh.
And I'm a Ravenclaw.
Okay. I'm Bayana, she, her, and I'm a Raven Puff. I am a hat doll, and I'm gonna stick to it.
Connie?
Oh, my next?
Yeah.
I'm Connie, she, her, Hufflepuff. Is that it? I'm trying to change my lights to be Hufflepuff behind me. So that's why I got distracted.
Primo Puff. Eliana. I'm trying to go in like alphabetical order, but oh no, I'm messing up already. Bilal, you go before Connie. And then
Oh my gosh.
Bilal.
Okay. My name is Bilal. Pronouns they, them, he, him, and I'm a Hufflepuff.
Nice. Eliana.
Hi, I'm Eliana. She, her, and my other pronoun is Shuri.
Oh my gosh.
I like the idea. I think it's a great idea. She, her, Shuri, and I'm a Ravenclaw.
Lauren.
I think you're muted still.
You're still muted, Lauren. You just talked to yourself.
Myself, sorry. Okay, Lauren, hi. I am a Ravenclaw, but you can't tell because I just had so much trouble unmuting myself. She, her.
And we may be joined later by Tyler. She's having some technical difficulties. You know, it's Wizard Team. Technology never loved us. And so I'll introduce Tyler, who is my cousin. It's she, her, Ravenclaw from Florida. So I don't know if like Floridian Ravenclaws are different, but
I just feel like you should not judge her when she's not here.
I mean, I've been judging her whole life. So what is we gonna do? Okay.
So first, we wanted to ask kind of what was your inspiration for the pieces that you wrote. So yeah, I mean, y'all can kind of go, you know, at whatever order you want to. Really quickly, folks can find those on our website, again, blackgirlscreate.org, under the Hogwarts BSU tab. And you should read them all.
I felt like no one, I don't want to. So I actually did do two pieces. I did one under the Hermione Granger and the Quarter Life Crisis web series with those characters. And then I did a second standalone piece from Sunshine Moxie, which is my production company. And in general, and I think it shows even with the web series, but I'm always really interested, I think, in the live. Like I kind of really interested in the world, like outside of the stories. For some reason, I just want to know like who I didn't see, and I'm always trying to like add people to it outside of Hermione and Parvati. But besides those two people, I'm just obsessed with like everyone else, or like coming up with my own stuff within the world. And so for the Hermione piece, I was thinking, you know, I've got on the show, we've got Hermione, and there are two like Black wizards who are a part of the show. And I was like, oh, and one of them is like a wizard activist.
All right. So it seems like Eliana froze, maybe, which seems like that makes sense given what happens with Wizard Team.
But we have been joined by Tyler. So Tyler, I kind of introduce yourself again.
Oh, I'm Tyler.
Hogwarts House and pronouns.
Oh, I'm Ravenclaw and I'm she, her pronouns.
Great.
Can you not hear me still?
We can.
Oh, okay.
So does anyone else want to answer while we wait for Eliana about your inspiration for your piece?
Yeah, I can answer. So one of the characters I've always loved was Angelina Johnson. I always felt like I wanted more from her every single time she was on the screen. She was the only identifiably Black girl in Hogwarts, in all of Hogwarts, honestly, if I'm remembering correctly. Am I right? In all of Hogwarts. And
I believe so. I think maybe was Angel or
Lavender in the movies.
Right? No, but Angelina Spinnet? No. What is her name?
Spinnet.
Alicia Spinnet. Was she? Nope. Okay. Just Angelina.
Yeah. And so I think I always wanted more from her. I was always excited when she was on the page. And one of the things that always bugs me about the epilogue was the fact that everyone happened to marry someone who they dated at school, especially because the only proof we had that George and Angelina had any kind of relationship was the fact that he asked her to the Yule Ball.
Yeah.
And then also, I always write about children. I almost always write about children. So I wrote about Angelina's daughter getting her Hogwarts letter. I always, YA is my favorite thing in the world. That's it.
I love that. It's my favorite too. So, Tyler, do you want to tell us? You did two pieces. We did a piece together, and then you did your own piece. So, do you want to tell us about your inspiration?
For my own piece, I was kind of, well, I guess this kind of like goes into like the other question, like what part of like the Harry Potter world do you not like that you're kind of not into or that you kind of like reject? And like one of those things was that whole like American houses thing. Like I was just not into, and like the idea of like, oh, racism doesn't happen in the wizarding world. And I was just like, okay, sure. So I kind of like wanted to think about like what would it be like to be like a Black female during like the slavery times, like colonial times, and like how that would like affect a person, because like I'm sure like the wizarding world like had like different rules and things, but I feel like if you're like you're in America and like you're seeing like people like being treated like less than nothing, like I don't think that you would just like ignore it. Like I don't see how that would happen. And then the second piece, I basically, Robin just told me what to draw and I drew it.
Well, I thought it was great. You also like really helped add to the words too, because I had an idea of what the story was, and like when you added, like I just had Lee at the end being like, nah fam, and like when you added like white wizarding bullshit, like that was so perfect. And so you did it right as well. And that really came from a conversation that we had on Wizard Team, and then just thinking about it some more about like the Tri-Wizard tournament and the fact that they're just like openly like kids die, and then like everyone's like, yeah, sounds awesome, let's do it, let's go. And like, no thank you, I'm good here. So those are our pieces. Connie, maybe?
I wrote two things. One about Minnie and Black Poppy Prom Free, and the other one was about Blaze Zabini starting the Hogwarts BSU, both which are directly inspired by Wizard Team. 100%. So I last year for Black Wizard History Month, the cousins put up Miranda Bailey from Grey's as Poppy Pomfrey in their little roundup of Black wizards last year. And so, and they've mentioned it on the podcast before, and I was like, okay, but what if I wrote that? And then I just decided that she's probably old enough to be friends with McGonagall, who has like an interesting story that is sort of talked about in Pottermore, but there are like little pockets that we don't really get to know about. So I was like, well, just combine them. And so one is about the seventh year Quidditch final in which Gryffindor loses to Slytherin and sort of sparks McGonagall's fervor, to put it lightly, for Quidditch matches between the two houses. But then imagine if her best friend Poppy Pomfrey is watching from the crowds as she injures herself and like ruins her Quidditch career. But then that sort of sparks Poppy's interest in medicine and like healing Hogwarts students very specifically, because she's like, this school is a dangerous place. I don't understand why we're doing this, so I'm just gonna save you all. You're welcome. So that's the one. And then the other one is Blaze feeling lonely in the Slytherin common room because all these white wizards just don't, they think they're down. They think that they want to include him, but he's like, I know you don't. Like, none of y'all Death Eaters don't like Black people. So he still feels a little isolated, even though he's like proud to be a Slytherin. So he starts the BSU, but he walks into the rooms and everyone's like, okay, but we don't mess with you. And he's like, I know, but maybe we could fix that. Is it better if I make Dean vice president? And that's basically the story. So both were directly inspired by either Wizard Team itself or conversations we've had, because literally the Hogwarts BSU is their larger name for the project. So
yeah, and I also thought it was really interesting because like you wrote a Blaze fic and then Bilal also wrote a Blaze fic, and I feel like they started from very similar kind of thoughts around his character, but also went in two different directions. So Bilal, if you could kind of talk about the direction you took with that.
Oh yeah, I wrote The Bite, and it's pretty much a story about Blaze and how well, I guess I should start with what I wanted to do was I wanted to take the how the houses are like a part of your identity and try to make that identity like an intersection. So like I always love when people talk about the houses and they sort of become like they're sort of like astrology signs. Like
or
we always hear about. Right.
Yes. Only because I'm obsessed with all of those things and put them all in my profile.
Right. So like you could look at astrology signs and see like the strengths and the weaknesses. And when people talk about the houses, when they talk about the strengths and the weaknesses, it's always a lot more interesting to me. And so I wanted to see like two things, like having the negative impacts of the houses and how they like manifest in like children, because these are like children, and this weird idea that like wizards can't be racist or they don't have racial bias. And like I talk about it in the piece, like, okay, like you can say wizards don't have racial bias, but also a lot of these kids don't come from wizard families. So like obviously those things would like come into play. And I also like a lot of the stuff I write are just like about like sad boys who don't know what to do with their feelings. And like I feel like Blaze was like the only person I could make that story with. And I feel like one of the earlier drafts of my story, Blaze goes into Slughorn's office and then he finds like a forget potion, and he takes it. And like right when it's about to start, he's wondering if he's taken it before. and then he just like puts it out of his mind. But I kind of wanted it to. I read my story, and it's kind of like he knows that this isn't good, and there's a chance he could go a separate way. Like there's a chance he could like see his mother's history and like go another way. So I also wanted to have a little happiness at the end, like a little bit of hope in there. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of one of the things that I really liked about that was that it felt like while he was like making a decision right now, it didn't feel like it was like the decision or like that he couldn't change that at any point in time. So yeah, that definitely answered the question. Eliana got cut off by our robot overlords. So if you want to go back and talk about the pieces that you wrote.
Yeah, I was going to say my Romanium is messing up. Terrible. So anyway, I'll just keep it quick. With the Hermione story, and maybe it's the Ravenclaw in me, maybe it's the curiosity of the stuff that I don't know. So I'm always like, who's outside of the building, this kind of stuff. And so I was also thinking like, I wanted to show these 3 Black witch wizard people doing something together. And I was like, what would they be doing? And then I'm like, Des is an activist, Ben is a sociologist, Hermione's like really into research and history. So they would of course be like looking into someone who was a big part of like wizarding Black history. And then from there, I just started to kind of have fun. And I think we've all acknowledged in different ways how like awesome Serafina Pickery is, but also kind of how ridiculous it is. And so then I was thinking, okay, well, what if there was this other sort of like radical Black woman that allowed this light-skinned Black woman to sort of move into this place, but the exchange was that the radical dark, and I kind of allude to the fact that this is Marcus Garvey's wizard or like magical sister that got shunned from the family, because he was so influential at the time and what he was doing. And I was like, that was right before Serafina would have become president with Marcus Garvey. They were both in New York. And so it just kind of seemed like it made sense. And I thought it'd be interesting to see that was a sacrifice that the wizarding world made, including Serafina. And maybe it was for the best, but maybe it wasn't. And so it was just me playing around with that idea. And then the other piece, the one that came from Sunshine Moxie, we actually did, at LeakyCon, we had this panel called Original Fan Fiction, and we all together as a group came up with that we would write different stories about a character from Harry Potter. But we decided we wanted somebody outside of the main characters, but people who still recognize that person. And we thought Cho Chang. And I've always found, before I thought about Black Hermione, Parvati Patil and Cho Chang were my sort of go-to girls. Because I know Angelina was explicitly Black, but she was so like such a tomboy, and I just never was. And so, and I always, as a kid, was always like, if as long as they weren't white, I felt like I could find, like Princess Jasmine was my princess for the longest time, you know what I mean? And so I was like, oh, this is like, Parvati's just like Princess Jasmine. I was like, cool, I'm in. And then same with Cho Chang. I was like, oh, she's like dating the popular guy, you know what I'm saying? So I thought about Cho, but then my thing with Sunshine Moxie is that it's a company that's centered around Black women being at the centers of stories. And literally the parameters were that the main character had to be Cho's child, and the antagonist was Cho's co-parent, who was a teacher at Hogwarts. And so I was like, well, how do I fit a Black person to be the main character? And then I was like, oh, Cho obviously adopted a Black daughter, and this girl has grown up without any Black influences and has magic. So why wouldn't she want to fit in with her family, who's all Chinese? And then I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then I wrote it. But that's all it was. And I think the big part of it, though, was thinking about identity, especially in a world where you really, like in a world where, not that it's necessary, but I think that it's a world where it would be a lot easier to adjust your identity with, with this magic. And so I thought that, now granted, something like that seems like it could be highly illegal and dangerous, but at the same time, identity to me becomes much more fluid in the wizarding world because the capabilities are so much more expanded, And I thought, because to be quite honest, there have been times in my life, not since I've been an adult, but when I was younger, that I thought life would just be a lot easier if I wasn't Black. And I would just be like, maybe just for a couple of years, like just to switch it up.
I will say that when I read your piece, Eliana, that piece, it had me thinking a lot about passing and the movie, not the Facts of Life. My mom is going to kill me. My mom makes me watch this movie all the time.
Oh, Imitation of Life.
Imitation of Life. Thank you.
Imitation of Life.
And it had me thinking a lot about that because even with passing, like so much has to go your way. You have to be light enough to do it. You have to like have the commitment to it. You know what I mean? But like magic makes a lot of that easier. So is it more of a temptation because it's available?
Yeah.
Like, or it's an option. It's an option. So awesome.
Yeah. You wrote pieces too, Robin.
I was just about to call you out.
Oh, beat you to it.
Beat me to it. All right, I'll go and then you go because you also wrote pieces.
Good.
So we talked about the comic with I did with Tyler. The one piece that I like really had in mind from the beginning was the Lavender Brown kind of Wikipedia entry. I didn't want to do a story. I kind of just wanted to do. So I looked at like Wikipedia and I looked at like the Harry Potter wiki and how they were set up, and then tried to like copy that format. And what I wanted to do there was just really lay out what I think a historical record culturally would have looked like. So the things with wikis is that anyone can edit them. And it takes like crowd knowledge to, do them. So you get a lot more kind of flair than you do with like a regular encyclopedia because people are putting in a lot more things. And so I kind of wanted to live in the middle, in the in-between of the books and the movies, and also in the in-between of the in-between of the movies, because we start off with an explicit, in the movies, we start off with a Black Lavender, and then once she gets to be a more prominent figure, she turns into an imitation Hermione, and she's blonde and curly haired and all these things. And I kind of I understand a little bit why they did it, but in terms of her looking like Hermione, but it's also a thing that whitewashed out is something that we've talked about. And what that would be like, since we always talk about on Wizard Team that the movies are ahistorical reenactment. So what that would actually be like if someone took a biopic of your life or of something that you were even tangentially a part of, you were there, but you weren't the main characters, and change something so innate, or so such a big change, and so I thought about what that would have, I thought a lot about what Lavender would have been like in the canon of the story of the books, which is that, she is popular and pretty, and people like her, and her and Parvati are tied to the hip. But no matter what, if you're at Hogwarts during that time, it gets dark and deep, and you're not escaping that reality. And if you're a Black student, we talked about, Death Eaters don't like Black people. There's just no way. And they don't like people of color. And so, though Lavender and Parvati are not the same race, they have similar issues of being othered. And then I brought in Blaze a little bit because I thought, he is Slytherin, he's pure blood. He's not on the run 7th year, right? But he's also not super comfortable with he's not down with Death Eaters, So that's what I was kind of thinking about for the Lavender piece. And then for the Howler a History, last year for Black Wizard History Month, we did really short, notable people in Black Wizard history that you may or may not have known. And we came up with Lavinia Gilchrist, who invented the Howler because of her son. And I really had no idea what I was going to write. So I decided to just start free writing. I, unfortunately took some names. My family won't read it, but I'm not great at naming things. I just named them after people I'm related to. And I thought about the idea of I've been thinking a lot about the idea that, the 11 wizarding schools doesn't make sense. So what is the wizarding education system like for the vast majority of people that are not able to go to a Hogwarts? And what I've kind of come up with is that they go to Muggle school and get wizarding education at home. And so in thinking about that, I thought about the fact that Lavinia sent her son off to go to Hogwarts, but she has this daughter who she can't afford to send both of them to Hogwarts because even though it's heavily subsidized, you know what I mean? You could do that, but the Weasleys are able to scrape by and make it happen. But also that because there's so few people of color, I'm thinking just culturally, people of color don't go to Hogwarts. They don't feel safe going to Scotland or whatever. The same way I would think that people of color in America would not feel safe going to Ilvermorny from different places. If you're from southern states, you probably don't want to go northeast. And if you're from California, you don't want to go all the way out there when you're 11. So I was thinking about that. And then I thought about the idea of the one student or the one child goes to Hogwarts and gets this education that is, accredited and everyone thinks is so great. And Hogwarts is the best wizarding school ever. But then he ends up with just this menial job at the Ministry of Magic because of systematic racism, but also because, Hogwarts is not giving you a good education. We've seen 7 books of the fact that the education is not great. And then the other sibling who gets homeschooled and ends up taking something that her mom made out of an basically accidental magic and then, making generational wealth out of taking advantage of that piece of magic. So that was my thinking on that. And it really literally Bayana was I need your piece. And I was yeah, I know, but I didn't have anything. And so when I just sat down and was I have to get out 800 words and I set myself a goal and just sat there, I hammered it out. I'd also just lost my friend's cat, so I felt really highly emotional.
That's when you wrote that? Good Lord.
That's when I wrote that. That was when I wrote that. Pressure really, I was I have to write this freaking piece and this cat is gone and I'm freaking out. So yeah. Well, how about you, Bayana?
Sorry, I just forgot about the cat for a little bit. So I did a few pieces. My first one was about Black magical hair care. It's a thing that I think about very often, especially on wash days. Today was one of those days where I'm just if only I could wave my wand and my hair is clean and twisted and I don't have to do much else other than that. So it's that one was really fun because I just got to make up things. I turned Harry's grandfather into a little bit of a thief. He kind of stole his idea for sleek easies from a Black woman from America.
I mean, are we?
It felt accurate. I felt
it would have happened.
Yeah,
it's historically accurate in real life. So
yeah,
sleek easies is nothing but pink moisturizer.
Exactly. That's what I thought. So I was might as well just let everyone know the truth. And then, so, it was mostly just fun. I got to do a little bit with Angelina as well. And just because she's always rolling around Hogwarts with her braids and you can't have those in for the entire, year without touching them up somehow, or, maybe having days where you rest your hair or maybe there's a spell where like it's not hard on your edges. I don't know. So just like thinking about that and like how she had to take care of her hair during her Hogwarts years and beyond. So that one was fun. And then I did this piece about the Beauvais family. So this one was hard because I didn't really know. I knew I wanted to write a piece that was set in America and about Black Americans, but I couldn't figure out what to do. And so I had to go back into the Magic in North America thing on Pottermore, and that was not very fun.
Sorry about that.
I was just like, but honestly, I like was skimming. I was just like, okay, let me try to find one thing, just one thing. And so I saw like Rappaport's law, which is like their law that you can't interact with Muggles. And then I saw in another one at the end about like all the magical wand makers. And there's like, I think it's Violetta Beauvais who is rumored to like make wands that take to dark magic, and then Seraphina Pickery has that wand. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna make her Black, and I'm gonna make her family like I'm gonna make her like descended from like people who helped enslaved Black people in the Underground Railroad and who use magic to do that, and that's why they're like they have all of this like infamy and like all this, you know, people are afraid of them and their wands and stuff because they actually like help Muggles and like Black Muggles from slavery, partly just because like, you know, all of the stuff around like magic in North America and just like what has come out about American wizardry, it doesn't make a lot of sense because it like kind of glosses over people of color and huge historical events like the genocide of Native Americans and like chattel slavery. So I was like, what is a way for me to fit this in there? Like, what is the way that makes the most sense to fit it in there that like still kind of aligns with canon, but also throws shade? So that was kind of my inspiration for that. And it was really fun to write because like there were a couple moments when I was writing, I was like, ooh, this is great. This is really just like punching him. That was funny. And then the last one I did was just like a really like cute little like fic about Roxanne Weasley, because I was like going to bed one night and I was like, we've been thinking a lot about Rose, you know, ever since like Cursed Child and like, oh, Hermione's Black, Rose is Black. And I was like, but we have a like canonically Black Weasley. So I decided to write about her, and I made her really into dragons because I love dragons. And she has an uncle who's into dragons. So she was gonna go spend
my husband.
Sure. And she was gonna go spend a summer with her uncle and study dragons after her 5th year. And I didn't like have a lot of time to kind of fully flesh out the whole thing. So I kind of did like bookend. So like the beginning, like when she's about to leave, and then at the end when she comes back. So then I ended up focusing more on like her relationship with her family and especially George, because I kind of imagine that she takes on a lot of his characteristics. And so I like, it was fun to kind of like have like write their banter, their like playful banter and stuff. So yeah.
That's great. I would say about your Beauvais piece too, I kind of loved it because I always thought, or when you wrote that, when you came at it that way, that like, of course they would then be like historically known to be like aligned with dark magic because they're aligned with like revolution and changing things. So I also, yeah, we're not going to get into magic in North America, but I just love anything that like circumvents Rappaport's law because it doesn't make sense. Like that you would have all of these people just, I mean, it's kind of the Hermione thing, right? Like she just doesn't see her family anymore.
Right, and that makes sense.
Yeah. So I want to like pop into the chat here because Brianna said, imagine, this kind of goes towards my piece and Eliana's piece. And so she says, imagine if Lavender used magic to look more like Hermione, or what she thought she wanted, or what she thought Ron would want. And so she wanted to look like something that she thought Ron would want, and how that's like a whole Pandora's box. I think that's like an amazing kind of thing to think about, because when you're that age, you know, what, 15 now at this time, when 15 or 16 when the crush gets real heavy. Like, there's so much jealousy in what you think like the cool kids are doing or wanting to look like them or being whatever. And if you have a crush and you can tell that your crush likes someone else, and you have magic, you know, we see like love potions and stuff start to, you know, make the rounds. So changing your appearance definitely seems like a possibility. Does anyone have any thoughts about that besides me?
I do have a thought about it, because I think even when I was thinking in that story, like, well, what exactly would it be? Because technically we've already been introduced to a way that they can change their appearance. Like, it's called Polyjuice Potion. Now, granted, it makes you look like someone else, but we've still been given information that this exists in that world. And so I was like, okay, well, that's something. And yes, you have to have a piece of that person, and that's how you become them. But still, the idea is that you can wholly change your outward appearance, you know? And so I felt like the next step past that, you know, is making that permanent or making that more long term. And I, you know, and to me that, and also too, even with transfiguration, then you can still alter what something is. And even like becoming an animagus, like, you're still able to like physically alter the makeup of what you are. And so that kind of, it seems like, and even like you said, even in like without magic, we still have people that do like surgical enhancements. You can change your entire face, you know what I mean, just through like actual surgery. And so I think that it's definitely maybe perhaps a dangerous idea to introduce into the world. Because of course, like with anything, there's the positives and the negatives, and it's kind of like who has their hands on it. But that's so interesting that these are, and you know, some of these kids, like, they've got to be super intelligent. They've got to be thinking about ways to fix the things that they don't like about themselves. And I feel like, yeah, it makes sense to me that there's some smart kids at Hogwarts or whatever school it is that would at least be asking themselves that question. I think that's fascinating.
Right. So we have other comments in the chat that I wanted to bring in and see what you guys thought about, mostly around the schools. Brianne says that she doubts that one school would work for all the wizarding kids, especially considering they're so against interacting with nomads in America, at least. And we also have another comment from Lauren, full of Raxfords, who says, as a wizard in Texas, there's no way her parents will let her trapeze all the way to New England. And as a mixed Black Native American, there's no way they'd let me go to a whitewash overmorning. And then thinking about it, like, they're convinced that they would have at least one underground school based on Native and African magical practices. And Adochi in the chat says he's going to Howard. It's definitely a magical school. Fight him. So one thing, Adochi, write that fanfic. Write that fanfic. Howard, magical university. But what do you guys think about the ideas of, like, even within like the pieces that you guys wrote about? I'm thinking about like Blaze and his interactions at Hogwarts and stuff, the alternatives that you could have, or that you think would be in the world, in the wizarding world.
The alternative schools, you mean?
Yeah, or education, like even if it's homeschooling or something, but the idea that like parents of color would willingly send their 11-year-olds off to a place like Hogwarts or Overmorning with no trepidation.
Yeah, it's really definitely weird. One of my first stories for you guys earlier last year was Dean meeting Blaze on the Hogwarts platform, and writing it was definitely strange because it sort of starts off with like Dean and his mom on the platform, and she's like, well, this is just strange that I'm sending you off to school by yourself. But I didn't really get into it, especially because she's Muggle born, or she's a Muggle. So I could have, it's something that like was at the tip of my brain, but I didn't like dive deeper into. But like a Muggle black mother in 1990 whatever, sending her son to this school in Scotland that she can't even get to because she has no magic. It does stretch the imagination.
And I always read that like her insistence on Dean meeting Blaze too was like, you need to have someone.
Right. Like that, then yes, you're absolutely right. That is part of the story, is that like she's like, I don't know about this, and then she sees another black family. She's like, we could, it's all right. there's more of us here. But and like there are British boarding schools, and it's like part of like there's a culture of that. But I know one friend who went to American boarding school, and she's writing a whole book about how it was terrible. So I'm thinking that a lot of black moms and dads and like even other minorities would be like, I don't know about this. Maybe we can get you in 5th year when you're a little older, because it is very young. So I don't know what the Muggle version of that is in terms of like not sending your black child to a boarding school where you just don't really have access to them. And it must be worse when it's like wizarding and it's like the only wizarding school. So then if you're a Muggle born, you have to do all this research, or you're a Muggle parent, have to do research to be like, I don't know about this.
Y'all.
He has to go? What do you mean he has to go? So yeah, there's a lot to sort of think about, and there are many layers to that way of thought.
Right. My parents didn't want to send me, a 17-year-old, to Indiana for college. They were not super convinced about that. And I was 17, almost 18. So I agree that stretches the imagination. Anyone else?
I was just going to say, we didn't get to do anything with it because I always have all these things that I want to write into the show. And it's like a 10-minute episode, but Enola, who plays Parvati's boss in episode 5, she's Native American. And I really wanted to have a Native American character in the show because I wanted to show that like her parents didn't send her to Ilvermorny, and there was a whole storyline developing, and as it is, she only just got to be Parvati's boss in 1 episode, and the actress is actually Native American. I was looking for someone and all this stuff, but because I think when that stuff first came out, one of the first things I thought about was like my parents started their own school, because when it was time for my older brother to go to school, and we were on the south side of Chicago, my mom and dad were like, yeah, our son's not going to these public schools. Like, it's just not going to happen. And that was within the same city that they were like, yeah, we're not turning him over, to these white folks. Sorry. But that was like that was their reasoning. And so then when all the Ilvermorny stuff came out, and it was just sort of this, this like all for one for all United States, that as everyone who has ever heard of the United States knows that that's never been the case. And so one thing that I kept thinking about was like, well, where did all of the non-white kids go to school? Because I just can't see that happening, and if they did go, what kind of family background would they have to be comfortable? Like, to me, that's like generations and generations, maybe like a Serafina Pickery, like her bloodline would go there. But I just started thinking, where would the kids like me or, us Southsiders, like our moms aren't sending us to some magical boarding school. And I know for a fact, I can't imagine any Native American parents interacting with that. But if we all exist in this, if they're all like in these magical spaces. And so I think that the same way now there's like small independent schools. I know a bunch of people that have like our school, we probably had like 40 students from all over the city. It was really small. And I know a lot of other people that do stuff like that. In my mind, it's the same way that when like the slaves were first freed and they would have all these small towns, and they would just have like the town had its own school. They had like a 1-room kind of school. In my head, that's like what the wizarding education is for people that can't either afford to go to those schools or just aren't comfortable enough to go there. And I think that is actually really fascinating. This world of like independent education. What's that about,
Yeah, it also makes a lot more sense that then there is only 11 schools, because people are there's no need to build more because they're not sending their kids there.
Yeah, they just have their own. I mean, first of all, even the fact that she put one school on the entire continent of Africa. That's okay.
It's in Wakanda, so you know.
it like, really? There's one school in Uganda. So
there may be more. We don't have all 11 schools yet, but so far, yeah, there's one in Africa. And then someone, when we were in Dublin at LeakyCon, mentioned that the one school in South America is in Brazil, where they speak Portuguese, surrounded by Spanish-speaking countries. So, yeah. I like to think that there's a TARDIS translation circuit that wizards have. So speaking in other languages is more like easier to do. You can understand each other with a spell or something or a charm, but who knows?
Yeah. So kind of going off of this conversation, is there anything in the Harry Potter like Wizarding World and the extended universe canon that you reject? This can be anything from like magic in North America to something that's like really small.
Can I start and just say that I reject Cursed Child? All of it. Full stop. All of it.
I mean, yeah. Cursed Child isn't it's not the thing. It's just no.
Right. And going back to Eliana's,
it's the hardest thing, yeah. It's
going back to Eliana's piece with Cursed Child, apparently you can make someone look exactly like Voldemort with through a series of spells. You don't even need Polyjuice Potion.
So, don't even need it. And he had no nose.
He had no nose.
Masterful spell work there.
They disappeared his nose.
And somehow he had sperm. How?
Right. And also they made him look like Voldemort of like his magical body and not the Voldemort that would have actually existed after he killed Lily and James, but you know, or before he killed Lily and James, but you know,
wibbly wobbly, whatever.
Wibbly wobbly.
But also, when did Cursed Child, the big thing in Cursed Child, when did it happen? When I have questions because when you read Deathly Hallows, Bellatrix is just like hanging out in the forest when Harry rolls up and she's like, kill him. So is she milking? Like, what's happening? Is her, like, I have a lot of questions.
She had a magical surrogate.
Oh, Lord.
That's the best answer, honestly.
You know
that
what?
Is literally the only answer that makes sense.
I still reject Cursed Child, but I can now accept a how this happened. I mean, granted, as you guys know, I didn't see half of the show because I left. But
can we just also talk about? So we were all on here before we went live, and we were talking about my and Eliana's fraught relationship and fraught friendship. But she made us like, no spoilers, don't talk to me about it. She was like serious about not getting spoiled for Cursed Child because her tickets were like far in advance and she had gotten tickets, but they were a ways away. And all of Wizard Team, like, if you guys haven't, like, we have a Slack channel and we have a Facebook group and you should join those things. And we're doing it even right now for Black Panther, where we keep spoilers and we try really hard. But all of Wizard Team tried to not spoil Cursed Child for months.
Even on the actual podcast.
It might have been a year. I think it was like over.
It was like
a year because my ticket was this past May.
Yeah, it was a year.
It was like a year. And then she got there and left.
I could not, but I hit that intermission and I was like, this is nonsense. And I am going to dinner. I'm not coming back to this show. I was like, I'm in a different country. I'm poor. And I am not going to waste a moment in this other country sitting in this nonsense ass show. And the only reason I saw the second, because I like when I called a friend, I was like, hey, we should go to dinner. I'm right in the West End. Like, come meet me for dinner. And then we had dinner and I had left my bags and baggage check. And I was like, oh, I got to go back and get my bags. And then when I went, I explained, I was like, hey, I'm just trying to pick up my bags early. I had to go to dinner with my friend, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, and I was like, I know it's too late to get back in. They were like, oh, do you want to go in? I was like, oh, just let me get the bags. And they were just like trying to be nice and like, no, we can get you in. It's fine. It's fine. So I was like, okay, I guess.
Well,
so I did see the end of the show, but I missed a large portion of the
The
second
nonsense.
part. I was just like, this is nonsense. I'm not watching this.
The staging and the acting was beautiful.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So I do also reject that, and I'm just because I had already unmuted myself. I mean, I feel like it's known, but I reject the epilogue. I think that's like a common. We all reject the epilogue, right?
Wow, I had no idea that you reject. Like, it's not like you have an entire production company and an entire web series dedicated to rejecting the epilogue. I'm fine with the epilogue now that I'm unmuted. Also, I just want to say, but I had no idea, Liana. Wow, this is new information.
I'm also fine with the epilogue. It's not great, right? But the idea that we didn't know that Eliana rejects the epilogue is.
But the funny thing is, for some reason, even though it doesn't seem like it because I have a whole like fanfic show, but in general, I don't reject the things that they write. Even Overmorning, I was like, okay, fine, it exists, right? Like, how do you work around it? Because I feel like if she created it, it counts. To me, the epilogue is just something she didn't mean to create. Everything else, I just, in my head, it's like, hey, if she made it, then it's real and it's fine. But the epilogue, I was like, no, this was, and once she said that it was a mistake, I was like, boom, I knew it. It happens. But everything else, so I don't really reject anything, to be honest. But Cursed Child, she didn't write, so you can reject that. It's not canon. So I don't reject anything. That's my thing.
Well,
the chat room. Sorry, I just wanted to. We have people in the chat room that also reject Cursed Child, and the idea that Overmorning. Someone rejects all of Overmorning, but also the idea that there isn't the magical school. The one magical school is not based in New Orleans or Louisiana because of all the places in America that are magical. New Orleans over Connecticut or wherever the fuck Overmorning is, New Hampshire or whatever.
Yeah, well, come on. You already know. We know what her priority is.
Right.
Sorry. Right.
Go ahead, Lauren.
I would say, for one, I reject the Fantastic Beasts movies completely. The first one, even before all this Johnny Depp nonsense, the first one just felt like a blatant cash grab to me, and I can't do it. It didn't tie into me. I reject how Magic in America has been done because, frankly, I'm from the South, and I ended up going to a HBCU. I do not see how Ilvermorny is the one school. There's no way. The entire reason why my college was founded was because there was nowhere that they would allow Black students to go. In those
magical cooperation,
mutual respect, and kinship.
Apparently,
no. As someone whose father went to an elementary school named after Nathan Bedford Forrest, no. Okay, that's number one. Number two.
I mean, schools weren't segregated until 1955, so in America, okay.
So there's that. And I also reject Hogwarts' entire curriculum for the most part. I just feel like it's ridiculous. I feel like the way they allow their teachers to just completely mistreat students for entire 10 years at the school and never get anything, then send them out in the world and let them be law enforcement officers. Harry Potter learned nothing from Severus Snape for forever, and he's supposed to protect and serve the magical community with little to no education in potions. There's no math. Y'all have to know math. Like, Professor Benz is a ghost and he teaches no one anything. What kind of grades is he giving? Does he even give grades? Does he turn in grades? I reject those things. That's all.
I need you to start a YouTube channel where you just scream at us about everything that you reject. Because I felt like you like went tunnel vision.
I'm so sorry.
And I was like, I felt like apologizing, and then I was like, but I didn't write that, so I felt like I should apologize.
I'm sorry. I feel very passionately about those things, and you guys finally gave me a space in which I can talk about it publicly. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But my favorite part was the end when she said, "I reject those things."
Very calmly. Bilal, Tyler, do you guys have anything that you reject?
Yeah, just to to piggyback off what Lauren said, I mean, everybody said pretty much most of how I was feeling, but I reject like every bit of like Harry becoming an Auror. Like, I don't like it. I'm not with it. Like, if Harry became an Auror, he would be on like magical CNN because he done shot some little kid or something with his wand. Like, terrible.
Oh no.
Terrible. Like, terrible decisions. Like, he should have been a teacher and he should have been like teaching the next generation of students not to do the terrible stuff he did.
I do like the idea that Harry Potter becomes the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher and like actually breaks the curse. You know,
that's what it should have been.
But
I don't care that he's an Auror, like whatever. But also, he should have been the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Like, why did she not want him to do that? Like, he could have been an Auror, just like Ron, who was an Auror, and then she's like, whatever. He quits and goes to work for his brother's school. Like, it could have been the same thing.
Accept that. I accept Ron's quitting an Auror and becoming a worker at the store. I accept that.
Because all he doesn't do anything else. That's his only move. So at the end of the day,
that turns so shady. Like, I just wasn't ready for that. He becomes an orange, becomes a worker at the store. I'm like, he's helping his brother.
He's also like co-owner.
Yeah.
He's just a clerk. He's a clerk. No big deal. All the wrong shade.
Listen, there's no shade whatsoever. Like, workers are valuable.
There's no shade, and yet all of a sudden, all of this coverage.
I accept that. I'm accepting that again.
Tyler, you kind of talked about when you were talking about your piece, things that you reject, but do you want to give us something that you reject in canon?
I mean, Sirius is my favorite character. Kind of reject that he died. I mean, I know that he died, but I just like every time I think about it, I just get like angry. I'm just like, why did that happen? Like, why? And then like Harry, the naming of Harry's children.
Y'all two really related, aren't you?
I was about to say, in case y'all didn't know, that's my fam.
Like, wow, y'all really related.
Is alive and well, and ain't no dumb nobody naming their child Albus Severus. Ain't nobody doing it. Alpha, it's not happening. Why, he doesn't hate his child. He doesn't hate him. Could have named him Brian Severus. Like, come on, Albus Severus?
I like Albus. I think Severus was unnecessary, but Albus is fine.
I get Albus because like he really like Dumbledore was like his mentor, and like he never like questioned anything. But like Severus, like I understand what you're trying to do, but also like I'm sorry, I'm not like Severus. Like
not naming my child after the dude that stalked my mom.
You loved my mom, and you were really trying to protect me when you were being an asshole. Like, nah. Whatever, like, I'm sorry. Like, there's people that are just like, yes, Severus, you deserve better. I'm just like, no, he should have died. Like, I felt nothing. I was just like, yep, that's what you get.
I love you. I don't know if I feel like I should just let you know.
I know. I feel like you don't tell me enough, but
I don't tell you enough. I love you. I think that you're a wonderful, bright young lady, and you have your future is just laid out before you. And I just feel like you should know that you are a genius.
I mean, I try. I really try. Yeah, just all the American, like, I also like Fantastic Beasts, like the moment like the trailer came out, I was kind of just like skipping this because like in Harlem during that time, and I'm just like, really? We're gonna go this direction with it? And like I just like I didn't need to like watch it. Like I felt like it wasn't like I didn't feel like it was like adding to the story in like an interesting way. It just felt like you like Harry Potter, now it's Harry Potter, but it's like a little different, and it's like the 1920s, but like very polished and like
it's Doctor Who with magic.
Yeah, it doesn't really like,
which sounds lit, but it
wasn't.
I mean, I didn't watch it still.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
I'm not watching what, the 4 other sequels? How many sequels are there gonna be?
4. There's so many of these.
4.
Like,
I mean, listen, the first half of that movie is lit. The movie she actually wanted to write until they were like, oh, make the non-prequel a prequel. The first half of that movie with the Niffler and the Fantastic Beasts.
It was cute.
It was actually about movie.
What a strange.
When there were beasts in it, I was down with that.
I was just like, wait. I just remember like a point being like, where are we? Like, what just happened?
What? 2 Fantastic, 2 Beasts? I'm not into it because I just feel like
this is so weird.
Yeah,
I reject Albus Severus as a name of a person.
It's not a good name.
I just wanted to jump in and just reiterate that.
Okay, so
I too have a bright future.
You are. Let's move on because we could be here forever. Have you guys wrote fanfic before? Or was this your first time? Or what made you want to start and what made you want to get involved in our project?
I had not written fan fiction before. I've been reading it for various fandoms.
Wait, you never wrote fanfic before Hogwarts BSU?
Correct.
Lies.
No. I'd really never written it. I've been reading it a very long time, but hadn't ever written any. So I guess I don't know what actually made me write that first story. I guess y'all were talking and I was like, that could be a good idea. Let me try my hand at that. Oh, they have the project. I can just submit it to that. I guess it was just like I wanted to submit to your project because I'm a supportive cousin, play cousin. And so I just decided to do that. And then I did 1. And then now I have 4. But they're all only for you because I haven't written any other fan fiction for anywhere else or any other fandoms.
Wow. And play cousin, you fam. Tyler actually wrote it because I made her, or submitted her first one because I was like, so we're doing this thing and you're doing this thing. But yeah, what about everyone? Or Tyler, why'd you come back? Because I made you again? Or I don't know.
Yeah, and like I'm I mean, I'm just being honest. But I mean I draw fan art pretty frequently. Well, yeah, the comic was fan art. The other thing was just like a random thing. But like I don't know. I really liked when you told me, like, I was like, does it have to be like specifically like a Harry Potter character? And you're like, no, it can be like anything, like any kind of like magic user that's Black. That like really interests me because like I'm very interested in like how like Black people with magic would like the history, how they would like deal with it in like different time periods. Like I find that really interesting. So I mean, and also like I like doing like art challenges and stuff, so I thought it would be something interesting to do. So it was mostly because you asked me to, but I mean I could have said no.
Oh, that's so cute that you think that. Aww.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Anyone else want to jump in?
So that was my first time. This is my first time writing fanfic ever. And honestly, it was my first time. Yeah. And it was my first time writing fiction and having it published anywhere as an adult. I chickened out and I didn't like. I'm excited, so it felt really good and it was a lot of fun.
It was great.
Thank you so much. I was really nervous and it took me a long time to write it. Like I had to send Bayana like a huge apology email, like it's taking forever. I'm way past this deadline. But long story short, I don't know if you all remember, but I interviewed you two for a little blog I used to run called All Black Girl Everything. And I thought Hogwarts BSU was just the best idea. I loved it. I loved the entire idea. So I was really excited when you all were taking submissions this year. So I instantly wanted to do something, even though it was kind of pushing me out of my comfort zone a little bit because I've been way in the journalist zone for a while without even writing any fiction on my own. So it was great. And I'm really excited to try to do more.
I'm excited to read more.
Right. Y'all are knocking it out of the park on your first goes.
It's funny because I just realized like lately I've been like, I don't really read a lot of fanfic, but I just read all the fanfic that I just make people submit fanfic to me.
You're like, bring it to me. Here's the email address. Bilal, I'm really interested in if you've done it before in your story, because I feel like Lauren interviewed us way early. We've met Connie's basically cousin, and Eliana's we met forever ago. Tyler actually is family. So Bayan and I couldn't call and make you submit something. So you actually came to us.
Oh, I think it was Constance the Do Black Wizards Not story. That made my ears perk up, and I was just like, okay, I like this. Okay, I can do this. Okay. And I really like when there's like a Dean and Blaze dichotomy, because I feel like people always put them together because they're Black and they don't really think about like socioeconomic reasons and like cultural reasons. And I really like that you get a little bit of that. You get like some of that in Connie's story. And so I like found the podcast and I was like listening, and I don't know, like when I actually wrote the story like about 6 or 7 months ago, and I kept just being like, oh, I'm gonna like look through it again and then I'll submit it. Oh, I'll do it eventually. And then I think two months ago, I just decided to do it. But I've been writing fan fiction for a long time. I think I started in high school. I started in like 8th grade, and like I broke off when I went to college. But yeah, it's been a minute since I wrote anything. I was really happy to do this one.
Awesome. I think yours was great, and it really. So if you've listened to the podcast, I've read one fanfic. Now on all of the Hogwarts BSU fanfic, but I really loved your take on the Blaze Dean relationship too, because I feel like they are always put together, and there would be the sense of like jealousy or like, ugh, I don't get it, like why is that, and I did love that, coming especially from a person I grew up, and there were 5 Black kids in my school, one of whom was my brother. So there was always this like, do y'all all know each other? You're all related? Do y'all all hang out? And it was like, yes, but why are you asking? It was like, yeah, we do, but how dare you ask? So I totally like related to that piece of like, and seeing it through Blaze's eyes too, I thought was really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things that I really wanted to play with in that story is how often in that whole series there's like, because Harry Potter, like his parents are gone, you don't really see like who his parents were and who he is really like delved into, like really explored in a way that is, I don't know, for me it's not explored in a way that's satisfying. And so what I wanted to do with Blaze was sort of set up this history with his mother and like the type of person that she would be in this universe, and then sort of have Blaze be in the same position and him be essentially have this choice of like he could either choose to be like this kid that he doesn't like, but the kid like has found love with somebody and like has friends who like him and like has friends who like him for who he is, or he could like go the very safe route and be with all these people who like don't really like him but like are around him because like his mother's really pretty and has a lot of money. And so like, you know, the whole bite part of it was like when you're in those situations, you know, where you're around a lot of white people who don't really get you and you have to be in that situation. There's a little part of you that's just like, this hurts, but I'm just gonna like get up tomorrow and like do it over again. And that's the kind of just how I have to do it. And like I wanted to really explore that. I've actually started writing. The only Harry Potter fanfic I ever wrote was Dean and Seamus. and that was like the first like romantic fan fiction I started writing. And like they were my thing since I was like maybe 13. And I wanted to do something for Dean, but like the Blaze thing was so much in my head. And I just had to put that in there. I just had to like go back for my history and just like plant that in there.
I was so excited. I thought that Blaze and Dean were gonna kiss, and I was like, yes. But I have a problem.
I think the thing with Blaze that I've been finding so interesting, and I'm annoyed about it because Joanne, why? Blaze is in their year. He's in any class that Malfoy is in with Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Blaze is in that class, and we literally never see him referenced in any classes. We go from hearing his name in the sorting to jumping ahead to Half-Blood Prince, where we see him on the train and in Slug Club. But it's like, literally, this kid spends all this time around the trio, and we never see any of it. Like, I know there is that problem of like, Joanne thinks that there are 1,000 students at the school, but there are only 3 Gryffindor girls. So like, she's not good at math or remembering people, but it's still like this bothersome thing where I'm like, the only other boy, like he's the only other boy in Slytherin their year, like the trio's year that we know of, besides Malfoy and Crabbe and Goyle. I can't think of a 5th kid, but it's like he's the only other student in that class, like the only other boy, and we just never ever hear about him until 6 books later, and it's really annoying. And now I'm also thinking like, there's Millicent Bulstrode and Pansy Parkinson, and then are there any other Slytherin girls? Like, how did you think that there were 1,000 students and you literally didn't mention half of, I don't, math, but also she's, yeah, it's just been bothering me a lot.
But I also,
he's always there.
But I also really enjoy, I guess for me, like fan stuff, like fan work when the original stuff is lacking is always better. Like some of the stuff that's on Hogwarts BSU is the best. Like it's so much better than what she wrote. And like, as much as I wish we got, I don't know, as much as I wish we got like years 1 through 6 of Blaze and years 1 through 6 of Dean, there's like, the way I rationalize it is like, there's nothing she could have written that would have made me happy. You know, there's
Facts.
nothing,
big facts.
You know, there's nothing she could have created about these characters that would have made sense to me as a Black person. Mm-hmm. And so like when you get like the little bitty things like, you know, Blaze's mom is really pretty and everybody loves her and like she's had a lot of husbands, or like Dean's dad was actually a wizard and he disappeared one day before I think when Dean was a baby, and like that, those are the things that like she doesn't she didn't try and she didn't put enough effort into it, but it also gives us the little bit to go on, so we could just create something else, to create something better.
Yeah,
You know
shout
what
out
I
to
mean?
Lyric, who I've met in real life recently. One of her stories for Black Wizard History is about Dean's dad and like why he disappears, and it was like a cool way to think about it because she brings in Baldwin and like Alfred Thomas was like a political writer about like blackness and wizardness, and like that's what gets him in trouble with the Death Eaters, but he was also in trouble with the Ministry, and that's why like no one saves him. And so yeah, for sure, as you were saying, like nothing Joe could have written, as we've seen, because all the magic in North America is just disappointing because she didn't do any of the work for it, and she didn't the first time, but it wouldn't have been satisfying for sure. So that's an excellent point. But then we get fun stories like Lyric's story, where it's like, let's explain this, and it's like, wow, that's a cool take on it, you know, and something that Joe would have never thought of.
Yeah, so like kind of going off of that, what are some of your favorite headcanons, and some things that you like want to write about in the future within this universe?
I think one of my favorite headcanons actually came from you all. The idea of Dumbledore and McGonagall going over the day, like with a cup of fire whiskey at the end of every long day in Dumbledore's office. It makes me really happy. I like to imagine their friendship because it just seems like that those would be the only people that each of them could feel adequately messy around. Like I just don't imagine either one of them opening up to anyone else. So that's my main one. And then the other would probably have to be, the other thing I would like to explore, honestly, is just I'm obsessed with knowing more about the Marauders generation and how they were before the war. I feel like we didn't get enough of them pre-war. And the other thing, and the reason why I was so excited to work with Hermione Granger in the Quarter Life Crisis is just seeing young witches and wizards when they aren't during wartime. Like, what's it like to be in your early 20s when you don't have to fight a dark wizard? So definitely more of that. Those are kinds of the things that I think about and wish we could, and enjoy getting the holes filled in by fan fiction.
Yeah, I definitely have. I've spent lots of time reading James Lily fanfic to sort of understand that relationship. And it's probably not something I would ever write, but it's something that like I think a lot about because it's just like the way Joe wrote their relationship kind of doesn't make sense, but then fanfic has found a way to make it make sense because she didn't like him for 6 years and then was like, okay, you cool, let's get married. And then I'm gonna kill y'all. What? Like, thanks for this really brief fairy tale. But I can't think of, I'm sure there's something.
I mean, it's all the courtship between Ginny and Harry. That's how she rolls.
Yeah, the romantic parts.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of like other stuff, but I'm sure it's something y'all will say on the podcast. Will be like, ooh, that's a great idea. I think I was like pretending to write a story one day, and I'm probably not going to go back to it, of Rose and Molly, and like Rose being black and like trying to figure out her hair with her grandma. But I feel like other better ideas will come up later.
Yeah, I actually don't know that I ever want to see Molly dealing with the black grandchild. I just feel like Molly, for me, is not. I don't trust her in that relationship. But I just don't. I absolutely do not trust Molly Weasley in a relationship with black people, especially one that is related to her, unfortunately. It's so funny because I feel like whenever I hear a headcanon, I'm like, oh, absolutely. But right now, for some reason, I'm also coming up blank. Like the only one I could say, and I feel like this is going to be like, oh, duh. But I mean, obviously, Hermione being black is my like favorite headcanon. That's the one that I am just like, I don't believe it's any other way. Like
that's
everything
canon
else
now. It's not even headcanon. That's canon
true.
now.
That's true. That's true. So I don't have a headcanon, but I think I'm one of the only people in the fandom that, and don't hate me, anybody on this, nobody on this is allowed to hate me, but I don't want more. I'm not like interested in the Marauders more than what we get. And I know when everybody was like, oh, we need movies, and they were like, oh, it's got to be the Marauder era, and I was like, really? Like, y'all think we need more of that? I don't know. Whereas I feel like I would love, like, the era that I really want to get into is the Founders. I feel like I like that, like, give me more. But I don't know, and maybe it's because I think that the Marauders era is just going to be, I don't know, white people in the 70s. I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be so, like,
it's very sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
It's just going to be, I mean, honestly, like, maybe that's it. Like, do we need another movie about, like, white teenagers in the 70s? I don't know. I'm just kind of like, snooze fest. You know what I mean? But I think, but the Founders era, I am interested in that, because in my head, like, that's a completely, like, Wild Wild West type of thing of magic. Like, it's all type of stuff going on. And I actually did, like, play around with the story in that time.
I'm wiggling my eyebrows at Eliana because I've seen it, and, you know.
Yes.
So that one I gotta, like, put together, because I feel like that, to me, when it's just, like, open and I don't, that I think will be interesting. But the Marauders, I'm just kind of like, you know.
So it's really funny is that just making sure that my relationship with Eliana stays on brand. One of my favorite headcanons is the idea of the Marauders having a band, like a punk band. And I actually bought a shirt, which is like the Ramones logo, but it has the Marauders on it. And so it has like, it's styled after the Ramones, you know, and it has the crest with their names in it. And I just love that idea of like Sirius and James being like the frontman and the guitar player, and like Lupin being the bassist who really like or the drummer who like keeps the beat and keeping it all together. And then like they have like Peter playing like the tambourine or something that you can just like, you can't really mess up, you know?
Shout out to you thinking Peter can play the tambourine.
Yo, I literally unmuted myself to say I need a link to where you bought that shirt.
I bought it at LeakyCon in LA, I think. Or I bought it at LeviosaCon in Las Vegas. I don't know, but I bought it at a con, and I don't know where, but it is great. And I'll try to find you a link and send it to you. But and again, I grew up in like majority, y'all know, or I don't know if you know, but majority white neighbor. I love punk. I love the Ramones. I love, like, I have a like New York Doll shirt that I wear all the time that people are like, who? And I'm like, I love the New York Dolls. I love that era too of like not being great at your music, like not being great at your instrument, but that doesn't matter because you have so much like style and like swag that you just push through on style, you know, like style, not substance or something. I don't know. But yeah, so the idea of just like the Marauders and who they are, and especially Sirius and James, having all the bombast, and then Remus being the one that actually like knows an instrument and keeps the band actually playing music, is one of my favorite headcanons.
Can I just add?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, can I just add, if Peter Pettigrew was on the tambourine, he would be on the 1 and the 3.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, which is why he's on the tambourine, because like you could just take it out. Like they give him something that is inconsequential. He's the band manager.
I was gonna say, I want someone to like go to Beyonce's Wikipedia and rewrite the beginning so that it's Harry Potter, so that she's Hedwig, and then instead of dying, she goes on to be in Destiny's Child.
Yeah, that is also one of my favorite things ever.
I don't remember when or how we came up with it, but it has stuck with me.
I think because Hedwig doesn't speak to Harry for like 3 months after they run into the Whomping Willow. And it was just like, she's a black woman. And then she became Beyonce because she's fierce. And I don't know. But and then the math works out. So like once the math worked out, it was like
once the math worked
cemented
out, like,
in my mind.
Yeah.
That timing was just like, wow, she really dies at 97. The child rises in 97. Wow, that really worked out.
Perfect.
And honestly, if Beyonce had like a gray wig, it would look like Hedwig. It would be that level of perfect. You already know.
Right.
It would be a
Snowy
wig.
Not a feather out of place. I also love, we had I might have told the story on the podcast, but a little girl came up at LeakyCon in Dublin and said that Hedwig didn't die because she killed all those mice, so she had a bunch of Horcruxes running around. And I just love anything that is like Hedwig is not dead, because that was one of those deaths that I just let's go back to I reject that Hedwig died. I reject that. So I love the Hedwig headcanon.
She just got fed up. She's like, listen, it's been 7 years of this fool's madness.
Right.
I can't take it anymore. I gotta peace out. Let me just pretend that I don't go here anymore.
Fake my death so they don't come looking for me.
I got Umbridge snatching me out the sky, Death Eaters trying to hit me with spells. It's just too much going on.
You running me into a Whomping Willow? I'm done.
I would say a headcanon that I like, it's like, I guess like in the fan art scheme of things, would be like Harry being like half Indian, half white. I think that's like really interesting take, and like I kind of just like the idea that like I don't know, it just seems like it fits, and like it would make the Marauders like have at least one member that's not white.
Have I told you how much I love you?
I mean, Mama does speak to this a lot. But
I speak about this a lot, and Asian, like East Asian furious. Like I think he's like in fan art on Tumblr and stuff a lot. He's like Korean or Chinese, and he's hot and like sexy. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say he's like Beijing. Okay, I said it. It's fine.
I always like when like people like change, or not like really change, but like when a character like has like it's ambiguous like what their race is, and then they're just like they're this, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. And I also like how like in like fandom and stuff, or like at least on Tumblr, like people like at least like when like in like the films they make it seem like being like a mudblood or like having like any human parents is like a bad thing, but I've always like people are always making posts about like people who have muggle parents like having mechanical pencils or like playing Pokemon and stuff like that, and like I've always been like interested in like like would like people who modern world like want to use quills and stuff, like
right, you go like 11 years using pens and mechanical pencils, and then they're like, here's some parchment and some ink,
like,
and you're like, why? I've never thought about that.
No, it's like a thing that people talk about. I'm just like, yeah, like if you like lived in the Muggle world and you had to like use quills and like ride in carriages, like no video games, can't bring your phone.
Okay, when you said Tumblr, it made me think of one more. There's this little cartoon of Sirius if he lived, and he had Harry calling him the dog father.
Oh, the dog father cartoons are my favorite.
So cute.
I share those periodically on Twitter too. I go into the, like when there's one where Harry's asking Sirius if he thinks he takes on the traits of a dog or like whatever. Or if you think that anime guy take on the traits of the animal they turn into, and then there's all these like scenes of Sirius being super dog-like and being like, no, I don't think so. And then there's like a scene of like McGonagall like knocking over a cup at the end. She's a cat. Oh, I love those.
Going back to what Tyler was saying about like race bending, Harry in particular, I feel like I saw a while ago that's why his family money is from Sleek Easy's potion, because they are POC and their hair is really thick. I think it was like someone was like they're black, and so that's why Sleek Easy's is like the hair straightening potion, and that's where the family money comes from. And so it still works with like an Indian Harry because they have really thick hair too. So it all works. I love it.
And excellent hair products.
Right.
Indian hair products will get you together.
Lauren is letting it be known. I also just love it because of like most of the art I see of Indian Harry. He's so cute. Like, and so it just makes sense. I don't know. It doesn't, I mean, I guess Dan Rad is cute and it makes, I don't know, but it makes so much more sense when you see him with a little bit of melanin. So one thing, do you guys have thoughts on representation in the Wizarding World and expanded universe?
Well, yeah.
Do you want this to go on another?
I know. Say we kind of touched on it with
okay.
Like Canada,
yeah.
like.
Okay, well we'll just wrap up with plugs. Do you have anything you want to plug besides your awesome Hogwarts BSU submissions that everyone should go check out at blackgirlscreate.org. Hogwarts BSU. Check out all these guys' work.
I also shared my stuff to Archive of Our Own. Obviously linking back to Black Girls Create. So you can find all 4 of my stories there.
Eliana? Can't hear you. Okay.
Okay, hello?
Yes. Plug us.
Duh. It's messing up. Sorry. Wait, hello?
Hit us with some plugs.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. Oh my, first of all, I'm supposed to be Shuri, and my technology is just not doing what it's supposed to do. But anyway, yes. So plug time, right?
Yes. Go for it.
Hermione Granger and the Quarter Life Crisis at Hermione Series on all social media. And then also Sunshine Moxie Entertainment, which is my production company that produces the Hermione Series. And that's at Sunshine Moxie on all social media.
Hermione Granger, Quarter Life Crisis, trying to raise money for season 2.
And Hermione Granger and the Quarter Life Crisis is crowdfunding. Oh my God.
We need to make it to $5,000 by tonight. So
yeah, because guys, first of all, the rest of this show, like we didn't get to do even half of what we wanted to do, needed to do in those first 5 episodes. It was a big struggle financially, of course. And so now, like I've been with the team and like really been like working to get this show to what it needs to be. And I'm telling y'all, like season 2 is about to be like on another level. And as we've all talked about, just like really wanting to explore some things. And of course, sticking to the idea of like young people of color coming of age on the screen. And that's outside of the magic, but just, I think that's something that none of us get to see very often. We don't see a lot of people like us like come of age. It's just not something we got to do. And so there's a cast of like 8 main people, and one of them is white. He's Draco Malfoy. You just kind of had to have him. But there's a cast of like 7 non-white people coming of age together, and I just think that's fascinating. So support and contribute and just share the link and like spread it far and wide. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this, but one thing that has happened a lot is that we haven't really gotten a lot of support from like other like the larger fandom, and I wasn't like surprised by that, but I would even at Comic-Con we would talk to people, and when I would show them Hermione, who was standing like a few feet away from me, they would just look so crestfallen. And there were so many people who just like actively don't like the idea of her. And so one thing that I have found is like we're sort of like on the fringe of fandom, which I think is fine, but I'm excited to keep like pushing back against that and to keep like screaming really loud about us. So contribute. Oh wait, I keep hitting the wrong buttons.
Okay, my name is Bilal. You can follow me on Twitter at Bilalpaup. That's at BILALIPAUP. I was supposed to have my website up today, but Squarespace isn't being my friend right now. So when that drops, all of you will see it if you follow me, and it's just a review blog of books and really like I call it my beach reading blog, like really cute, like low stakes stuff to read to like.
Percy Thompson. Sorry.
I'll put that on my list.
Read it.
It's like low stakes romance, YA, everything happy, and everything is happy at the end. Interesting stories, all that stuff. Stay tuned.
Tight. Robin has so many recommendations, clearly.
Murphy Thompson. And we will definitely, once your website goes up, we will be sharing that out on our social handles. We like to support our friends. We just like to do nerd stuff with our nerd friends.
It's the only reason we're here.
Brianna, you want to plug anything?
Yeah, I mean, Black Girls Create. Use the hashtag Wizard Team, hashtag Black Wizard History, hashtag Hogwarts BSU. This is the end of the month, and that's really sad, but we've had a lot of really dope contributions and like fun events and podcast episodes and lots of cool things happening. And hopefully we can keep building on that momentum and hang out with more of our Black Potterhead friends.
And creators. And I know we didn't plan on this, but I thought we could MVP and bench someone this month.
In the whole month?
Yeah. Like your favorite MVP, your favorite piece that came out or something, your favorite tweet from the challenge, and then bench J.K. Rowling in the Warner Brothers Studios.
I was like, who are we supposed to bench in this episode? It's all about like Black joy and stuff. And
J.K. Rowling and Universal Studios, of course.
You brought it around.
Who else?
The writers of Cursed Child, they can sit down.
Okay, so that's the universal bench. So that none of us have to do that.
We're just doing MVPs.
Just MVP. I'm already unmuted. Everyone who contributed. I think that so many cool things came out of this project, and I MVP Robin and Bayana for coming up with Black Wizard History Month, and for the challenge that they had going up every day, the daily challenge that I eventually dropped in participating in, but found some fun things that I can't remember off top. So that's why I don't want to call anyone out. But some really hilarious tweets came out of that. And I think that it was really engaging towards the community at large and bringing on other people. So I'm just really proud of the cousins for their efforts this month. Bam.
I like that we're the cousins, like the Marauders. We have our own thing. We need
a
logo.
Logos are lit.
I'm gonna go ahead and call my MVP Blue Ivy. I don't know what she's done this month, but I'm sure it's deserving. Keep it moving.
Yes.
Agreed. Oh, she did the thing at the Grammys. Wasn't that this month? When her parents were trying to clap?
Yep.
That like, exactly no.
It. I told you. She always does something. Always
no. Let's not. That woman's a racist. Mom, dad, hands down.
I mean, in that direction, MVP for me would be Janelle Monáe for all the stuff right now.
Girl magic.
Mm-hmm. And possibly Wizard?
Definitely a wizard. We have her as Hestia Jones in last year's Black Wizard History Month. We used her picture at least. But Janelle Monáe herself is definitely like a wizard. And we might need Connie to sort her. But yes.
Ravenclaw. I already did it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then.
Sorry.
Maybe a Slytherin. I don't know. But probably a Slytherin at very least.
Bilal, do you have an MVP? Eliana?
Yes, I do. I think my MVP right now is Denai Guerrera from The Walking Dead and Black Panther. Like everything in that movie, like every scene that she's in, gave me all the life I ever need. And yeah, it's just been fueling me through like the past few weeks of how great she was in that movie. And I want to actually bench myself for not being as engaged this month as I know I could have been. My IRL job is is a little bit too much right now, but I'm gonna try harder. I'm gonna try harder to get with my cousins and engage more.
Yeah, we'll have to do more socials too.
Yeah, this is
yes.
Yeah. Also, Denai Guerrera is totally a Ravenclaw. She's a playwright, poet. I don't know if she's a poet, but she's a playwright.
Totally Ravenclaw. Yeah, I'm gonna do the benching first, and I'm gonna bench myself too for the same reason. I don't know. I was on a job for a few months, and then the show wrapped right at the end of January, and then so technically right now I'm actually unemployed, but this is also the first time that I've been able to put as much time as I need into Hermione and also Sunshine Moxie. And when I tell you that I have been overwhelmed, and I felt really good at the beginning of the month because I did like days 1 through 5 back to back on the challenge, and then I have literally
that's what I give up to.
I was like, yes, girl. I was like, yes, Eliana. First,
my pin tweet and everything, and I still like 4 days in, I was like, dang.
And then it just
got ideas for this
like,
one.
damn, we on day 23. Like that happened a few days ago, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm benching myself because I was so excited for Black Wizard History Month, and I just disappeared into the month. But you know what? But then I'm also, you know what? I'm not. I take that back. I was creating Black history.
Boom.
Boom.
So okay, and I'm just gonna MVP Ryan Coogler for just all the reasons. I think that's the obvious MVP. Because he's just amazing, and I just can't say enough of like how remarkable I think he is as a writer and as a director. I mean, he is a big part of who I aspire to be.
And a Ravenclaw.
I think he's a Slytherin.
Oh, wow. You're wrong, but
that's
nothing new there.
I mean, listen, I would love him to be in my house. I want him to be in my house, you know. But I don't know.
He's so thoughtful. I'm just from that Variety clip alone of him breaking down that one scene. Ravenclaw.
But Lin-Manuel Miranda is also thoughtful, but also a Slytherin.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I think Ryan might be a Slytherin on us. Okay, how about like first of all, I don't know if y'all read. He probably is a Slytherin. I don't know if y'all read the Variety piece with Lee Daniels and Barry Jenkins and
not yet.
Before, it's fantastic, by the way. Please read it. But Barry was talking about like he had dinner with Ryan like years ago, right before Fruitvale Station premiered at Sundance. And at this dinner, Ryan was just like, oh, this is going to be my career path, and like had laid out what he was going to do. And now, what are we, 5 years later, and he just has directed, or he's just released Black Panther. And like Barry was like, he knew, like even then he was plotting his way on this career path. I don't know. I think Ryan's a Slytherin.
That's very Slytherin, yeah.
And first of all, that's ambition. And that's like that cunning, that plot. He's not even on social media. That letter he posted from the like Black Panther account or the Marvel account, like,
yeah,
that's a power move.
It's like, I see your thoughts, but I don't even need to be here.
bro literally typed up a letter and had them post a picture of it. It was like a tweet from me to you. That's a power move.
I could be swayed. Yeah, the Sorting Hat is funny.
You know, I don't know, but all the same, like Ryan is my MVP.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bayana?
All Black Potterheads everywhere.
Oh, so lovely.
Agreed.
Also, Bayana's nails are my MVP. Also,
Bayana's nails.
I just got them done like maybe 6 hours ago. So
your nails look amazing.
Ooh, your
like,
sister's gonna be mad. She's trying to get them done.
They're mood nails, so right now it's kind of warm, so they're pink. But when it gets cold, they're gonna turn purple.
They're everything.
Thank you.
Everything.
Well, thank you guys so much. I think all of you are my MVP for submitting and being engaged and hanging out with us for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like we told you to take an hour, but you know us, we like to talk.
We've been here before. We've listened to your podcast.
Right.
Flash been on it.
But yeah, I thank you guys. I think thanks to the people in the chat on Twitter, paying attention, watching. We loved having you guys with us. And yeah, tomorrow's the last day of Black Wizard History Month. That's rough and sad, but
we'll be around. February will come back.
Yeah, it'll come back. So yeah, thank you guys again. Have a great night. And Wizard Team drops tomorrow, Wizard Team Wednesday, and we will see you on the internet.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye,
Let's do
y'all.
another social soon. This was fun.